The vast expanse of space, cold and unyielding, stretched infinitely in every direction. Stars, distant and indifferent, flickered like ancient beacons, guiding travelers across the cosmos. Among these travelers was a ship, sleek and angular, cutting through the void like a predator stalking its prey. The vessel, an imposing construct of alien design, hummed with a quiet yet potent energy, its purpose clear and singular: conquest. Inside the ship, the atmosphere was tense, but not with fear or apprehension. The crew, seasoned warriors of the Qorath Empire, were focused, disciplined, and confident. Their race, known for their military prowess and technological superiority, had conquered countless worlds, each victory reinforcing their belief in their own invincibility. Earth was just another target, a backwater planet on the edge of the galaxy, home to a species they considered little more than savages. Captain Thalax stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the holographic display before him. The image of Earth, a blue and green orb floating serenely in the darkness, was magnified on the screen. He observed it with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. To him, this world was insignificant, a mere stepping stone in the Qorath's expansionist agenda. "Captain, we are approaching the planet's atmosphere," Lieutenant Zyril reported, her voice calm and efficient. She, like the rest of the crew, was clad in the dark, sleek armor of the Qorath military, her expression hidden behind the helmet's visor. "Prepare for descent," Thalax ordered, his tone devoid of emotion. "Activate cloaking fields. We don't want to alert the natives until we've assessed their defenses." Zyril nodded, her fingers dancing across the console as she relayed the captain's orders. The ship's exterior shimmered briefly before it vanished from sight, rendered invisible by advanced stealth technology. To any onlookers below, it would appear as if nothing had disturbed the sky. As the ship began its descent, the crew reviewed the data they had gathered on Earth and its inhabitants. The humans, as they were called, had developed rudimentary technology and had even ventured into space, but their progress was slow and their achievements paled in comparison to the Qorath's advancements. The humans were divided, prone to conflict among themselves, and lacked the unity and discipline that defined the Qorath. Conquest would be swift and decisive. But Earth was not without its peculiarities. The Qorath had encountered strange anomalies in the planet's ecosystem: creatures that exhibited aggressive survival instincts, plants that seemed to adapt rapidly to environmental changes, and weather patterns that were unpredictably violent. While these were noted in the mission briefing, they were not considered significant threats. The Qorath had faced and subdued far greater challenges in their conquests. "Initial scans indicate no immediate threats in the landing zone," Zyril reported as the ship passed through the upper layers of Earth's atmosphere. "We should be able to establish a base of operations without interference." "Good," Thalax replied, his eyes narrowing as he focused on the screen. "Deploy the ground teams as soon as we land. I want a full reconnaissance of the area. Let's not waste any time." The ship descended rapidly, passing through clouds and turbulence with ease. Below, the landscape unfolded a vast expanse of dense forests, mountain ranges, and winding rivers. It was a remote area, far from human settlements, chosen specifically to avoid detection. With a barely audible hum, the ship touched down in a small clearing within the forest. The landing was smooth, almost imperceptible. The moment the ship stabilized, the crew sprang into action. The ramp lowered, and the first wave of soldiers disembarked, their weapons at the ready. They moved with precision, fanning out to secure the perimeter and establish a temporary base. The forest was thick and teeming with life. The sounds of insects, birds, and distant animals echoed through the trees, a stark contrast to the sterile environment of the ship. The Qorath soldiers, however, paid little attention to their surroundings. They had been trained to operate in all types of environments, and Earth's wilderness was no different from the countless other worlds they had encountered. "Perimeter secure," one of the soldiers reported. "No signs of human activity." "Proceed with reconnaissance," Thalax ordered. "I want to know everything about this area: flora, fauna, mineral deposits, any potential threats. This planet may be primitive, but we will not underestimate it." The soldiers spread out, their advanced scanners and sensors analyzing the environment in meticulous detail. Data streamed back to the ship, where the crew began processing it, cataloging every piece of information. As the soldiers moved deeper into the forest, they encountered the first signs of the planet's peculiar nature. A large, predatory animal, something resembling a bear, but larger and more muscular, emerged from the trees, its eyes fixed on the intruders. It growled, a low, menacing sound, and then charged with surprising speed. The soldiers reacted immediately, their weapons firing with precision. Pulses of energy struck the creature, but instead of collapsing, it roared in pain and fury, its movements becoming more frenzied. It took several more shots before the beast finally fell, its massive body slumping to the ground. The soldiers approached cautiously, their weapons still trained on the creature. One of them knelt beside it, scanning the body with a handheld device. "Unusual," he muttered, his voice distorted by the helmet's comm system. "This creature's physiology is highly resilient. It took far more energy to bring it down than anticipated." "Interesting," Thalax replied, his tone still calm, but with a hint of curiosity. "Bring the specimen back to the ship for further analysis. We may need to adjust our tactics if the wildlife on this planet is more formidable than expected." As the soldiers continued their reconnaissance, the anomalies became more frequent. Plants with rapidly shifting colors, animals displaying abnormal aggression, and strange, unidentifiable energy readings from the deeper parts of the forest. Each new discovery was relayed back to the ship, where the crew worked to make sense of the data. Hours passed, and the initial confidence of the Qorath began to waver slightly. While they had encountered no serious threats, the unpredictability of the environment was unnerving. The planet seemed to be reacting to their presence in ways they hadn't anticipated. Back on the ship, Thalax reviewed the reports with a growing sense of unease. The anomalies were too frequent to be mere coincidences, and there was something about the planet that felt deliberate, as if it were aware of their presence. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Zyril said, her voice cutting through his thoughts. "There's an energy signature nearby unlike anything we've seen before. It's faint, but it's there." Thalax frowned, leaning closer to the screen. "What do you mean, unlike anything we've seen before?" Zyril hesitated, her fingers tapping the console as she brought up the data. "It's difficult to explain, sir. The energy signature doesn't match any known technology or natural phenomenon. It's almost as if it's alive." "Alive?" Thalax repeated, his tone skeptical. "Energy doesn't just come alive, Lieutenant. It must be some kind of natural occurrence, perhaps related to the planet's magnetic field." "Perhaps," Zyril conceded, though her voice remained uncertain. "But the readings are erratic. They seem to fluctuate as if they're responding to something." Thalax considered this for a moment, his mind racing through possibilities. He had encountered many strange phenomena in his career, but this was different. The planet was remote, undeveloped, and yet it held secrets that eluded even their advanced technology. "Send a team to investigate the source," he ordered finally. "I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." A squad of soldiers was dispatched immediately, moving through the forest with their weapons at the ready. The energy signature was located several kilometers from the landing site, deep within the forest. As they approached, the air grew colder, and an eerie silence settled over the area. Even the usual sounds of wildlife were absent. The source of the energy was a cave, partially hidden by thick undergrowth. The entrance was wide, and a faint, pulsating glow emanated from within. The soldiers paused, their instincts telling them to proceed with caution. "Proceed carefully," the squad leader instructed, his voice low and tense. "Stay alert." They entered the cave, their lights cutting through the darkness. The walls were lined with strange, bioluminescent fungi, casting an otherworldly glow. The deeper they went, the stronger the energy signature became, until it was almost overwhelming. And then they saw it, a massive, crystalline structure embedded in the cavern's floor. It pulsed with a soft, ethereal light, and the air around it seemed to vibrate with energy. The soldiers approached cautiously, their scanners working overtime to analyze the structure. "It's unlike anything we've encountered," one of them reported. "The material is. It's not something we can identify. And the energy it's emitting, it's not stable." "Should we extract it?" another soldier asked, his voice tinged with unease. "Negative," the squad leader replied. "We need to report this to the captain first. This isn't something we should tamper with without more information." As they turned to leave, the ground suddenly trembled, and the light from the crystalline structure intensified. The soldiers froze, their weapons raised, as the structure began to emit a low, resonant hum. The low hum grew louder, reverberating through the cave, and the crystalline structure began to pulse with a rhythm that felt almost like a heartbeat. The soldiers instinctively backed away, their weapons still trained on the anomaly. The ground beneath their feet shook again, this time with greater intensity, causing loose rocks and debris to tumble from the cave walls. "Captain, we're experiencing seismic activity," the squad leader reported, his voice strained as he tried to maintain his balance. "The structure is reacting to our presence, it's unstable." Thalax's voice crackled over the comms, calm yet commanding. "Withdraw immediately. Do not engage the structure. We need to analyze the data before taking any further action." The soldiers began to retreat, their movements quick but cautious. The cave trembled around them, the hum now a deafening roar that seemed to penetrate their very bones. As they reached the entrance, a blinding flash of light erupted from the crystalline structure, flooding the cave with an intense, white radiance. The soldiers staggered, momentarily disoriented by the sudden brilliance. Then, as abruptly as it had started, the light faded, and the cave fell silent. The tremors ceased, and the oppressive energy that had filled the air dissipated. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances, unsure of what had just occurred. The structure, now dim and inert, appeared unchanged, as if the entire event had been a mere illusion. "Report, squad leader." Thalax's voice broke the silence, his tone demanding answers. We're not sure what just happened, sir," the squad leader responded, still catching his breath. "The structure emitted some kind of energy wave, but it's dormant now. We've sustained no casualties, but the event was unusual." Thalax's expression hardened as he processed the information. "Return to the ship immediately. We'll analyze the data and determine our next course of action. This planet is proving to be more unpredictable than we anticipated." The soldiers quickly exited the cave, making their way back through the dense forest toward the landing site. The air outside felt different, heavier somehow, as if the planet itself was aware of the disturbance they had caused. The squad moved with heightened vigilance, their earlier confidence now replaced by a growing sense of unease. Back at the ship, Thalax reviewed the data transmitted by the squad scanners. The readings were chaotic, fluctuating wildly as the crystalline structure had reacted. There was no clear explanation for the phenomenon, and the lack of concrete data only deepened his frustration. "This planet is far from ordinary," Thalax muttered to himself, his eyes narrowing at the screen. "We need to proceed with extreme caution. There's more to this world than meets the eye." As the squad made their way back to the ship, the forest seemed to close in around them, the shadows growing longer and darker. The sounds of wildlife, once distant and subdued, now felt unnervingly close, as if unseen eyes were watching their every move. "Captain, we're encountering increased wildlife activity," the squad leader reported, his voice tense. "It's as if the creatures here are reacting to something." "Stay on alert," Thalax ordered. "If the wildlife is behaving unusually, it could be a response to the energy signature. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary." The soldiers moved with heightened caution, their weapons at the ready. The trees rustled ominously, and the underbrush shifted as unseen creatures moved within. The squad maintained their formation, their senses on high alert, as they navigated the dense terrain. Suddenly, the lead soldier halted, raising a hand in a silent signal. The squad froze, their eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of danger. The forest had gone eerily silent, the usual cacophony of sounds replaced by an oppressive stillness. Without warning, a large creature burst from the underbrush, its form a blur of speed and ferocity. It was unlike anything the soldiers had encountered before. Its body was sleek and muscular, covered in dark, chitinous armor, and its eyes glowed with an unnatural light. The creature moved with terrifying speed, its claws slashing through the air as it lunged at the nearest soldier. The squad reacted instantly, their weapons firing in unison. Energy pulses struck the creature, but it barely flinched, its momentum carrying it forward with unstoppable force. The soldier it targeted was thrown back, his armor barely holding against the creature's onslaught. "Fall back! Regroup!" the squad leader shouted, his voice commanding as he fired at the creature. The soldiers moved with precision, pulling their injured comrade back while maintaining a defensive line. The creature roared, a guttural sound that reverberated through the forest, before charging again. The soldiers focused their fire on the creature, their weapons blazing as they poured energy into it. This time, the creature staggered, its movements slowing as the relentless barrage began to take its toll. With a final, defiant snarl, it collapsed to the ground, its body smoking and lifeless. The squad approached cautiously, their weapons still trained on the fallen creature. The forest around them remained silent, as if the other inhabitants were waiting to see what would happen next. "Status report," the squad leader ordered, his voice steady despite the tension. "One injured, but stable," a soldier replied as he tended to their wounded comrade. The creature, it was unlike anything we've encountered. Its resilience was off the charts. The squad leader knelt beside the creature, scanning it with his device. The readings were similar to those from the crystalline structure, erratic, unstable, and unlike anything in the Qorath's extensive database. "This planet, there's something very wrong here," the squad leader muttered, his unease growing. "We need to get back to the ship and report this immediately." As they continued their journey back to the landing site, the soldiers couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The forest, once merely a backdrop, now felt alive, aware, and hostile. Every shadow seemed to conceal a threat, every rustle of leaves a potential attack. When they finally reached the clearing, the sight of the ship was a welcome relief. They quickly boarded, sealing the ramp behind them. The sense of safety was palpable, but the unease lingered. "Captain, we've returned with a specimen," the squad leader reported, his tone formal but strained. "We encountered a hostile creature unlike anything we've seen. It was incredibly resilient, similar to the anomalies we've observed in the environment." Thalax nodded, his expression unreadable. "Understood. We'll analyze the specimen and the data. This planet is proving to be more complex than we initially thought." As the ship's scientists began their analysis of the creature and the crystalline structure, Thalax reviewed the situation. The mission, which had seemed straightforward, was now fraught with uncertainty. Earth, a planet they had dismissed as insignificant, was revealing itself to be a place of deep and unsettling mysteries. "Captain, we're detecting a significant energy buildup in the area where the squad encountered the crystalline structure," Zyril reported, her voice laced with concern. "It's growing stronger rapidly." Thalax's eyes narrowed. "Prepare the ship for immediate departure. We can't afford to be caught off guard by whatever is happening." As the crew scrambled to follow his orders, the ship's sensors picked up a massive energy spike from the cave. The readings were off the scale, and the ground beneath the ship began to tremble violently. "Captain, we need to leave now," Zyril shouted over the growing rumble of the ship. Thalax made a split-second decision. "Initiate emergency liftoff." The ship's engines roared to life, and it began to ascend rapidly, pulling away from the planet's surface. Below, the forest erupted and chaos. Trees toppled, the ground cracked, and a blinding light shot up from the cave, reaching toward the sky. As the ship soared into the atmosphere, the crew watched in stunned silence as the energy from the cave surged outward, enveloping the surrounding area in a brilliant, pulsating glow. The planet, which had seemed so unassuming, was now a beacon of unimaginable power. Thalax stared at the display, his mind racing. This was no ordinary planet, and the humans who inhabited it were no ordinary species. They had stumbled upon something ancient, something that defied explanation, and it was only the beginning. As the ship broke through the atmosphere, the crew breathed a collective sigh of relief. But the tension lingered, like a storm that had only just begun to brew. Thalax stood at the command console, his gaze fixed on the planet below. Earth, a seemingly insignificant rock in a remote corner of the galaxy, had just revealed a power that defied all logic and expectation. "Status report," Thalax commanded, his voice steady but laced with the gravity of their situation. Zyral's hands moved swiftly over the controls, her expression grim. "We've sustained minor damage during the emergency liftoff, but nothing critical. However, the energy readings from the planet are off the charts. It's as if the entire area we just escaped from is alive with some kind of unknown force." Thalax turned his gaze to the monitor, where the planet's surface was displayed. The area where the cave had been was now a glowing beacon, pulsating with an intense, almost unnatural light. It was unlike anything they had ever encountered. "What kind of force are we dealing with here?" Thalax asked, more to himself than anyone else. His thoughts raced as he tried to make sense of the data. Every instinct told him that Earth was far more dangerous than they had anticipated. "Captain," Zyral's voice pulled him back to the present, "I'm running the data through all known records, but there's no match. Whatever this is, it's beyond our current understanding. It's ancient, powerful, and unpredictable." The weight of her words settled over the crew like a shroud. Thalax knew they were venturing into the unknown, and the stakes had never been higher. The Qorath Empire prided itself on its vast knowledge and technological superiority, yet here they were, standing before a mystery that seemed to mock their arrogance. "We need answers," Thalax said firmly, breaking the silence. "This planet, these humans, they're not what we thought. We can't afford to proceed blindly." Zyral hesitated, then spoke with uncharacteristic emotion in her voice. "Captain, I've served with you for years, and I've never seen anything like this. It's like the planet itself is protecting something, or someone." Thalax studied her, recognizing the fear beneath her composed exterior. It was rare for Zyral to show emotion, and it only reinforced the seriousness of their situation. "We'll find out what it is," he assured her, though his own doubts lingered. As the crew worked to stabilize the ship and assess the data, Thalax retreated to his quarters, needing a moment to think. The walls of his private chamber, usually a sanctuary of calm, now felt like they were closing in on him. He sat at his desk, staring at the holographic display before him, the images of Earth's surface still flickering on the screen. He thought back to the mission briefing. Earth was supposed to be a simple reconnaissance mission, a backwater planet, barely worth the Empire's attention. Yet everything had gone wrong from the moment they set foot on its soil. What had they awakened? And more importantly, what were they up against? Thalax's thoughts were interrupted by a chime. "Enter," he called, not bothering to look up. The door slid open, and Zyral stepped inside. Her usual sharp demeanor was softened by concern. "Captain, I thought you might want to see this." Thalax motioned for her to continue, his interest piqued. Zyral approached, activating a small device in her hand. A holographic projection appeared, showing the crystalline structure they had encountered in the cave. But this time, the image was different. It showed the structure as it had been moments before the energy surge, pulsating with light, as if it were alive. "I enhanced the recordings," Zyral explained, her voice low. "This structure, it's not just an artifact. It's a living organism, or at least something close to it. The energy it emitted, it wasn't just random. It was a response to our presence, almost like a defense mechanism." Thalax felt a chill run through him. "You're saying it was aware of us?" Zyral nodded, her expression grave. "I believe so, and it's not the only one. There are traces of similar structures scattered across the planet, some dormant, others active. We've only scratched the surface." The implications were staggering. If these structures were spread across the planet, each with the potential to unleash unimaginable power, Then Earth was far more than just a simple backwater world. It was a fortress, hidden in plain sight, guarding secrets that the Qorath Empire could barely comprehend. "Captain," Zyril continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper, "I think we need to reconsider our approach. This planet, these humans, they're connected to something far greater than we understand. We're not just dealing with an enemy, we're dealing with an ancient force, one that has existed long before our empire." Thalax stared at the hologram, his mind racing. Every instinct told him to retreat, to leave this planet and never return. But another part of him, the part that had led him to countless victories, refused to back down. There was something here, something that could change the course of their empire, for better or worse. "We can't turn back now," he finally said, his voice resolute. "We need to learn everything we can. This mission just became our top priority. The fate of the Empire may depend on what we discover here." Zyril nodded, though the unease in her eyes remained. "Understood, Captain. But we need to proceed with extreme caution. Whatever we're dealing with, it's beyond anything we've encountered." Thalax knew she was right. The path ahead was fraught with danger, but the potential rewards were too great to ignore. He stood, straightening his uniform with a sense of determination. "Prepare the crew. We're going back down." Zyril's eyes widened in surprise, but she quickly composed herself. "I'll see to it, Captain." As she turned to leave, Thalax couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to step into something far larger than themselves. The secrets of this planet, the hidden power it held, it all led back to one undeniable truth. The humans were not the prey. They were the predators, and the Qorath Empire had just become their next target. The ship descended through the atmosphere once more, the tension palpable as the crew prepared for the unknown. Thalax stood at the helm, his eyes fixed on the viewscreen as the surface of Earth came into view. This time, they would be ready. This time, they would uncover the truth. The landing was smoother than before, but the unease among the crew was evident. The planet's surface was eerily quiet, as if the very air was holding its breath, waiting for their next move. The squad, now fully aware of the dangers they faced, moved with a sense of urgency and caution. Thalax led the team, his senses heightened as they approached the cave once more. The structure was still there, pulsing faintly with light, as if it was waiting for them. The air was thick with tension, each step forward feeling like a step closer to an abyss. "Stay sharp," Thalax warned, his voice low. "We don't know what we're dealing with." As they entered the cave, the atmosphere grew heavier, the oppressive energy from before returning with a vengeance. The structure seemed to react to their presence, the light within it growing brighter, more intense. Thalax could feel it now, a pulsing in the air, a rhythm that matched his own heartbeat. "Captain, I'm picking up something," Zyril's voice broke the silence, her tone urgent. "It's a signal, but it's not coming from the structure. It's deeper, buried beneath the surface." Thalax's heart raced. "Can you trace it?" "I'm trying," Zyril replied, her fingers flying over the controls. It's ancient, buried deep within the planet. Whatever it is, it's been dormant for a long time." Thalax's mind raced with possibilities. What could be hidden so deep, so well protected, that even the Qorath Empire had no knowledge of it? And why was it waking up now? "Captain, we're getting closer," Zyril continued, her voice tinged with excitement and fear. "The signal is strong. It's like a heartbeat." The words sent a shiver down Thalax's spine. A heartbeat? Was this planet alive in ways they couldn't comprehend? Or was something else, something far more terrifying, stirring from its slumber? "Keep going," Thalax ordered, his voice steady despite the dread curling in his gut. "We need to find out what it is." The team pressed on, deeper into the cave, the walls closing in around them. The light from the structure was now blinding, pulsating in time with the signal. Every instinct screamed at Thalax to turn back, to leave this place and never return. But he couldn't. The answers were here, within their grasp. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled, a deep, resonating quake that nearly knocked them off their feet. The light from the structure flared, and a low, rumbling sound filled the cave, a sound that Thalax realized, with a sickening certainty, was a growl. "Captain," Zyril shouted, her voice cutting through the noise. "We need to get out of here." But it was too late. The ground split open with a deafening crack, and the team was thrown off their feet. Thalax barely managed to grab onto a protruding rock as the cave floor crumbled beneath them, revealing a vast, yawning chasm. The structure's light intensified, turning a searing white that illuminated the cavern with an otherworldly glow. Thalax struggled to regain his footing, pulling himself up as the rest of the team scrambled to do the same. "Everyone, fall back, now!" The order was clear, but the cave seemed to have a mind of its own. The walls shook violently, sending shards of rock raining down. The ground beneath them continued to crumble, and the chasm grew wider with every passing second. Thalax looked down into the abyss, the light from the structure illuminating what lay below. It wasn't just a simple cave, it was a massive, intricate network of tunnels and chambers, pulsating with the same eerie light. And in the center of it all, far below, was something massive, something alive. Zyril managed to reach his side, her face pale with fear. "Captain, we have to go. This whole place is coming down." But Thalax couldn't tear his eyes away from the sight below. Whatever was down there, it was awakening, and it was far more powerful than anything they had ever encountered. "Thalax," Zyril's voice was desperate now, her hand gripping his arm as the ground beneath them began to give way. "We need to leave, or we'll be buried alive." Reality crashed back into Thalax's mind, and he snapped into action. "Fall back, everyone, move." The team didn't need to be told twice. They scrambled toward the cave entrance, the ground buckling and shaking beneath them. Rocks tumbled from the ceiling, crashing down around them as they fought to escape. Thalax and Zyril were the last to reach the entrance, just as the cave collapsed behind them in a deafening roar. They barely made it out before the entire structure caved in, sealing whatever was beneath it once again. The crew tumbled onto the rocky surface outside, gasping for breath, their bodies battered and bruised. Thalax lay on his back, staring up at the sky, his mind racing. They had come so close to discovering the truth, only to be pushed back by forces they couldn't comprehend. Zyril knelt beside him, her face a mixture of relief and concern. "Captain, what just happened? What was that thing?" Thalax shook his head, still trying to process the chaos they had just escaped. "I don't know, Zyril, but whatever it is, it's ancient, and it's powerful. And it's waking up." He sat up slowly, every muscle in his body protesting. The rest of the crew was already regrouping, their faces pale with fear and uncertainty. They were trained soldiers, veterans of countless battles, but nothing had prepared them for this. Thalax got to his feet, his mind already racing ahead. The mission had changed. This was no longer just about reconnaissance. They were dealing with something far beyond their understanding, something that could threaten not just their lives, but the very existence of their empire. "Everyone, listen up," he said, his voice cutting through the chatter. "We're dealing with an unknown threat, something ancient and dangerous. We need to gather as much data as we can and report back to command. But for now, our priority is survival." The crew nodded, their fear replaced by determination. They trusted Thalax, and he wouldn't let them down. But even as he spoke, he couldn't shake the feeling of dread that gnawed at the back of his mind. They had stirred something that should have remained buried, and now they would have to face the consequences. As the crew prepared to move out, Thalax took one last look at the collapsed cave. The light from the structure was gone, but he could still feel its presence, pulsing beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to strike. "We're not done here," he muttered under his breath. "Not by a long shot." Zyril caught his words and gave him a questioning look, but Thalax just shook his head. There was no need to worry the crew any more than they already were. They had a mission to complete, and whatever mysteries Earth held, they would uncover them no matter the cost. With that, Thalax turned and led his team back toward the ship. The danger was far from over, and they had only just begun to scratch the surface of the secrets hidden on this enigmatic planet. The air was thick with tension as they approached their vessel, each step heavy with the weight of the unknown. The planet seemed to watch them, silent and foreboding, as if it knew what they had unleashed. As they boarded the ship, Thalax couldn't help but glance back one last time. The cave entrance was now a mound of rubble, but he knew that whatever lay beneath was far from buried. It was waiting, watching, and it would make its move soon enough. The ship's engines roared to life, and they lifted off the ground, leaving the desolate landscape behind. But the unease in Thalax's gut only grew stronger. They were heading into the unknown, into a battle they didn't fully understand. But one thing was certain: they were not the hunters on this planet, they were the prey. The darkness was complete, the kind of blackness that suffocates, that presses against the skin and fills the mind with primal fear. For days, the humans had moved silently through the shadows, their footfalls as light as whispers on the wind. They were the unseen, the ghosts that haunted the land beneath the earth. The ship's scanners could find no trace of them, but Thalax knew they were there waiting. The crew had established a perimeter around their landing site, fortified by sentry drones and automated turrets. They were cautious, methodical, but that unease never left their minds. Earth had been designated a low-priority world, one with primitive life forms and minimal threat. But what they had encountered in the cave, and now what stalked them in the night, shattered those assumptions. In the distance, Thalax could see Zyril and the others securing the last of their equipment. The camp was a maze of reflective shields and energy barriers, each one designed to keep out anything that might approach. But even the most advanced technology could not erase the tension that hung heavy in the air. "Captain," Zyril's voice came through the comms, steady but with an edge that revealed her unease. "All systems are operational. We're ready." Thalax nodded, though no one could see him. "Good. Keep the sensors on maximum alert. We can't afford any surprises." But surprises were all they seemed to encounter on this cursed planet. Deep in the woods that surrounded the landing site, something moved, something too quiet, too deliberate to be an animal. The aliens had expected resistance, perhaps some form of primitive defense, but this was different. They had trained for ambushes, for engagements with enemies who could fight in the open. But this was hunting. The first sign was subtle, just a slight disturbance in the motion detectors, a brief flicker that could have been attributed to a glitch. But the second time it happened, Thalax knew better. "Everyone, hold position," he ordered, his voice low but firm. "We have company." The crew tensed, weapons at the ready, their eyes scanning the trees for any sign of movement. The alien soldiers were trained to face their enemies head-on, to overpower them with superior firepower and technology. But now they were being hunted, and their hunters were nothing like they had faced before. The first strike came without warning, a flash of movement in the trees, barely perceptible, and then one of the sentry drones exploded in a shower of sparks. The sound was muffled, almost as if the attackers wanted them to hear it, to know that they were vulnerable. Thalax reacted instantly, barking orders through the comms. "All units, defensive positions. Zyril, get the drones back online, now." But the humans were already ahead of them. Another drone went down, then another, each one destroyed with surgical precision. The camp's lights flickered, the automated turrets swiveling desperately to find a target. But there was nothing, only the shadows, deep and impenetrable. The fear was tangible now, spreading through the crew like wildfire. They had been in tight situations before, but never like this. Never had they felt so exposed, so helpless against an enemy they couldn't see. "Captain," Zyril's voice was tight with tension. "We're blind out here. I can't get a fix on their location." "Keep trying," Thalax replied, though he knew it was futile. The humans were playing a different game, one that the aliens didn't know the rules to, and they were losing. Another flash, this time closer, and one of the soldiers fell with a scream, clutching at his neck as blood sprayed from a deep gash. The others rushed to his aid, but it was too late. He was dead before he hit the ground. Thalax stared at the fallen soldier, his mind racing. This wasn't just an ambush. It was a message. The humans were telling them that they could strike whenever they wanted, that they could kill them without ever revealing themselves. The fear turned to anger, a burning rage that threatened to consume him. He was not going to let these primitives take his team apart piece by piece. They were not going to be prey. "Zyril," he growled into the calms, "get me a lock on their position. I don't care how, just do it." There was a pause, and then Zyril's voice came back, filled with grim determination. "I've got something. It's faint, but I think I can triangulate." "Do it. Everyone else, prepare to engage. We're not running from this fight." As Zyril worked feverishly to pinpoint the attackers, the rest of the crew formed a tight perimeter, their weapons trained on the darkness. Thalax could feel the tension in the air, the anticipation of the coming battle. The humans were out there, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. And then, suddenly, Zyril's voice broke through. "Captain, I've got them. Southeast quadrant, 300 meters out." Thalax didn't hesitate. "All units, move out. We're taking the fight to them." The crew advanced as one, their movements synchronized and disciplined. But as they moved through the trees, the realization struck them. This was exactly what the humans wanted. They were being led into a trap. But Thalax didn't care. He was done playing their game. If the humans wanted a fight, they were going to get one. The ground was soft beneath their feet. The sounds of the forest eerily muted as they closed in on the enemy's position. Every step was measured, every breath controlled. They were ready. But when they reached the coordinates, there was nothing. No sign of the humans, no indication that anyone had been there at all. Just the silent, oppressive darkness. And then the attack came, swift and brutal. One of the soldiers went down first, a blur of movement in the corner of Thalax's vision. He turned just in time to see the human disappear back into the shadows, leaving the soldier's lifeless body behind. "Return fire," Thalax roared, but there was nothing to shoot at. The humans were ghosts, striking from the darkness and vanishing before the aliens could react. Another soldier fell, then another. The aliens fired blindly into the trees, their weapons lighting up the night with streaks of energy. But it was no use. The humans were everywhere and nowhere, their attacks relentless and precise. Thalax's heart pounded in his chest, the cold grip of fear tightening around him. They were being slaughtered, hunted like animals in the dark, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. "Fall back," he shouted, desperation creeping into his voice. "We need to regroup." But as they tried to retreat, the humans struck again. This time, it was Thalax who was targeted. A sudden impact slammed into his side, knocking him off his feet. He hit the ground hard, his weapon skidding away into the underbrush. Pain shot through his body, but he forced himself to move, to crawl toward his weapon. But before he could reach it, a figure stepped out of the shadows, tall and imposing, with eyes that gleamed coldly in the darkness. Thalax froze, his heart hammering in his chest as he stared up at the human. There was something primal in those eyes, something that sent a chill down his spine. The human didn't say a word, didn't make a sound. He just watched, as if deciding whether to finish Thalax off or leave him to suffer. For a moment, time seemed to stretch out, the world narrowing down to just the two of them. Thalax could feel the weight of his own mortality pressing down on him, the realization that this might be the end. And then, without warning, the human turned and vanished back into the night, leaving Thalax lying in the dirt, gasping for breath. He didn't know how long he lay there, his mind reeling from the encounter. But eventually, he forced himself to his feet, his body trembling with a mixture of pain and rage. The humans had let him live, but it wasn't mercy. It was a message, a reminder that they were outmatched, that they were the prey in this hunt. And it was a challenge, a dare for Thalax to keep fighting, to see how far he could go before they finally ended him. Thalax staggered back to the others, his mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. The rest of the crew was battered, shaken, but alive. They had survived the night, but only just. As they regrouped, Thalax could see the fear in their eyes, the realization that they were up against something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning. "Captain," Zyril said, her voice low and strained, "what do we do now?" Thalax looked around at his team, at the haunted expressions on their faces. The mission had gone from bad to worse, and now they were fighting for their very survival. But they were not going to give up. They were soldiers, trained for war, and they were not going to let these humans break them. "We adapt," Thalax said, his voice hard as steel. "We find their weaknesses, and we exploit them. We're not going to let them win." But even as he spoke, he couldn't shake the nagging doubt in his mind. The humans had shown them what they were capable of, and it was only the beginning. The hunt had begun, and Thalax knew that only one side was going to survive. The dawn broke slowly, the light filtering through the trees like a reluctant intruder. The humans had withdrawn, their presence once more lost in the vastness of the forest. But they were not gone. Thalax could feel them out there, watching, waiting for the next opportunity to strike. As the crew gathered their fallen, the weight of their losses hung heavy in the air. The death of the alien soldier was not just a casualty of war, it was a sign. A sign that this planet, these humans, were not what they seemed. Back at the camp, Zyril began analyzing the data from the night's attack, her mind racing to find a pattern, a weakness they could exploit. But there was nothing, no clues, no mistakes. The humans had been flawless in their execution, leaving the aliens with more questions than answers. But Thalax was not one to dwell on doubts. He was a leader, and his people needed him now more than ever. "We're going to fight back," he said, his voice calm and determined. "We're going to turn their tactics against them. They think they're the hunters? We'll show them what it means to be prey." The crew nodded, their resolve hardening. They had come to this planet expecting an easy conquest, but now they were in the fight of their lives, and they were not going to go down without a fight. The day passed in a tense silence, the crew working tirelessly to fortify their defenses, to prepare for the inevitable next attack. They knew the humans would come again, and they knew it would be worse. But this time, they would be ready. As night fell once more, the camp was a fortress, bristling with weapons and sensors. The aliens stood at their posts, their eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. They were ready for whatever came next. But as the hours passed, the night remained still, the forest silent. There was no sign of the humans, no attack, just the suffocating darkness, pressing in on them from all sides. Thalax's mind raced as he waited, his every sense on high alert. The humans were out there, somewhere, but what were they waiting for? What was their plan? And then, in the stillness of the night, Thalax realized the truth. The humans weren't just hunting them, they were wearing them down, breaking them piece by piece. The fear, the anticipation, the waiting, it was all part of the plan. But Thalax was not going to let them win. He was not going to let these humans, these primitives, defeat him. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, Thalax made his decision. They were going to take the fight to the humans. They were going to hunt the hunters. And this time, they were going to finish it. The alien camp, once a symbol of technological dominance and military prowess, now lay in disarray. The aftermath of the previous night's battle left a somber scene: broken equipment, scattered supplies, and a pervasive air of defeat. The advancing dawn revealed the scars of war with cruel clarity. The scattered remnants of alien forces, their armor dented and stained, moved through the camp with a mix of fatigue and anxious vigilance. Thalax stood near the command tent, his gaze fixed on the holographic map displayed before him. The map was cluttered with red and green markers, a chaotic reflection of their deteriorating situation. The precision of their military strategies had been upended by the relentless human assaults, and now the once well-oiled machine of their operation was grinding to a halt. "Thalax," Zyril said, her voice a mixture of exhaustion and frustration, "we need to address the increasing number of deserters. The morale is collapsing, and the soldiers are growing restless. Their fear is spreading like wildfire." Thalax turned to face her, his expression grave. "We need to re-establish control. The humans are exploiting our weaknesses, and it's causing a ripple effect through our ranks. If we don't act swiftly, We risk losing everything. As the day wore on, the tension within the camp became almost palpable. Soldiers whispered among themselves, their conversations laced with doubts and fears. The unity that had once been their strength was now unraveling, replaced by an undercurrent of distrust. In the mess tent, a small group of alien soldiers huddled together, their voices low and urgent. Ryan, one of the more vocal dissenters, leaned in close to his companions. "This can't go on. We're being picked off one by one, and our leaders seem incapable of turning the tide. We need to consider retreat." Lyra, her face lined with worry, nodded in agreement. "The humans are methodical, they're playing a long game, and our continued presence here is making us more vulnerable." Their conversation was a catalyst for growing discontent. The seeds of dissent, planted in the fertile ground of fear and uncertainty, began to grow. The idea of retreat, once a distant consideration, now seemed like a viable option to many of the soldiers. The camp's atmosphere shifted from one of determined resistance to one of fear-driven indecision. In the command tent, Thalax received troubling news from his security teams. Reports indicated that several soldiers had been observed communicating with the humans. The scope of the betrayal was becoming clearer, and it was affecting not just their strategic position, but their internal cohesion. "Someone among us is leaking information," Thalax said, his voice low and tight with anger. "We need to identify the traitor and deal with this threat immediately. If we don't, we're going to lose control of the situation entirely." The search for the traitor began in earnest. Alien soldiers, once comrades, now eyed each other with suspicion. The air was thick with paranoia, each glance and whisper fraught with accusation. The process of identifying the mole was fraught with difficulty, as distrust pervaded every interaction. In the quiet of the command tent, Thalax's frustration mounted. He had always prided himself on his ability to lead through adversity, but the current situation was unlike anything he had faced before. The humans had managed to exploit their fears and weaknesses, turning the alien forces' own people against them. The next few hours were a whirlwind of accusations and counteraccusations. The tension reached a boiling point when Qorath, one of Thalax's most trusted lieutenants, was found to have been in contact with the humans. The revelation was a blow to Thalax, who had relied on Qorath's loyalty and expertise. Thalax confronted Qorath in a secluded part of the camp, his anger barely contained. "How could you betray us?" he demanded, his voice cold and unforgiving. Qorath, visibly shaken, struggled to meet Thalax's gaze. "I thought I was helping. I tried to understand them, to find a way to negotiate. But they're not like us. They only see survival, and they're using that to destroy us." The confrontation was a grim reminder of the depth of the humans' cunning. The betrayal had not only compromised their security, but had also fractured their unity. As the evening approached, the alien camp was a place of simmering unrest, the sense of impending doom palpable among the soldiers. Thalax's mind raced as he considered their next move. The humans had proven themselves to be not just adversaries, but masters of psychological warfare. They had used the aliens' own fears and insecurities against them, and the result was a camp on the brink of collapse. As night fell, the alien camp was a hive of tension and discord. The once disciplined ranks of soldiers had become a fractured group, their loyalty to each other overshadowed by their growing distrust. The betrayal had left a deep scar on their morale, and the sense of unity that had once bound them together was now a distant memory. Thalax, grappling with the fallout of Qorath's betrayal, convened a meeting with his remaining loyalists. The command tent, once a place of strategic planning, had become a forum for desperate discussions and tactical recalibrations. The air was thick with the weight of the situation, and every word was weighed with the gravity of their predicament. "We cannot afford to let this division continue," Thalax said, his voice firm despite the turmoil inside. "Our enemies are exploiting our weaknesses, and if we don't act decisively, we will be torn apart from within." The meeting was attended by Zyril and a few trusted officers. They listened intently as Thalax outlined a plan to restore order and reassert control over the camp. "We need to address the traitor issue head-on," Thalax continued, "and we need to reinforce our defenses while we still have the strength to do so." The plan involved a series of security sweeps and increased surveillance to root out any remaining traitors. The camp's internal security was tightened, and Thalax's loyalists worked around the clock to shore up their defenses. Despite their efforts, the sense of mistrust lingered, and the soldiers' morale remained fragile. Meanwhile, the humans took full advantage of the alien camp's internal strife. They intensified their attacks, targeting the weaker points in the alien defenses and exploiting the confusion that had settled over the camp. Their strategies were calculated to sow further discord among the aliens, and their attacks were executed with precision. Thalax's attempts to restore order were met with mixed results. Some soldiers responded to his leadership with renewed determination, while others remained skeptical and fearful. The camp was a place of constant vigilance, with soldiers on edge and the atmosphere thick with apprehension. As the internal conflict continued, the humans' psychological tactics reached new heights. They began to use the information obtained from the defectors to plant false intelligence, feeding misinformation to the alien forces. The result was a series of misleading reports and fabricated threats that further eroded the camp's cohesion. In one particularly shocking incident, a faction of alien soldiers, incited by false intelligence, launched an attack on a supposed human stronghold that turned out to be a decoy. The ambush resulted in heavy losses and further demoralized the already fractured alien forces. The betrayal within the camp had taken a heavy toll, and the damage was becoming increasingly apparent. The once formidable alien camp was now a shadow of its former self, its soldiers struggling to maintain their footing amid the chaos and confusion. Thalax's resolve hardened as he faced the reality of their situation. The humans had revealed a fundamental truth. Their mastery of psychological warfare was a force to be reckoned with. The ability to manipulate fears and exploit weaknesses had given them a significant advantage, and the aliens were left scrambling to adapt. As the night wore on, Thalax stood alone in the command tent, the weight of the situation pressing heavily on his shoulders. The realization of the humans' strategic prowess was a sobering one. They were not merely fighting for survival, they were engaged in a high-stakes game of wits, and every move counted. The humans had proven themselves to be not just formidable opponents, but also adept at exploiting every possible advantage. The battle was far from over, and the path to victory would require more than just strength. It would demand a deeper understanding of their enemies and the ability to adapt to an ever-changing battlefield. As dawn approached, the alien camp prepared for the next phase of the conflict, their resolve tested and their unity strained. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but Thalax knew that they had no choice but to face them head-on. The betrayal had been a harsh lesson, but it was one that would shape their approach to the war in the days to come. The alien camp was eerily silent as night fell, the usual clamor of activity subdued by an oppressive sense of dread. The psychological strain of the ongoing conflict, combined with the peculiar and hostile environment of Earth, had begun to take a severe toll on the alien forces. As the days passed, the strain of their losses, the betrayal from within, and the relentless pressure from the humans began to erode their once unshakable composure. In a small medical tent, a group of alien soldiers sat huddled together, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and confusion. The room was dimly lit, the flickering light casting unsettling shadows on the walls. One of the soldiers, Kale, stared blankly at the floor, his hands trembling uncontrollably. His breathing was ragged, and his gaze seemed distant, as if he were looking at something far beyond the confines of the tent. "I saw it again," Kale muttered, his voice barely more than a whisper. "The shadows, they're watching me." His comrades, visibly distressed, exchanged worried glances. "You're not alone," Lyra said softly, trying to offer comfort. "We're all feeling it. The pressure, the strange things we're seeing." Outside, the darkness seemed to close in around the camp. The alien soldiers, already on edge, found their sense of reality increasingly distorted by the constant psychological attacks from the humans. Hallucinations became a common occurrence. Soldiers reported seeing phantom figures moving in the shadows, hearing voices that didn't belong to anyone, and feeling an overwhelming sense of paranoia that made every rustle of the leaves seem like a threat. The camp's medical officers struggled to cope with a rising number of cases. They administered medication and tried to provide reassurance, but their efforts were only partially successful. The line between reality and illusion was blurring, and the soldiers found it increasingly difficult to distinguish between what was real and what was a product of their fractured psyches. In a secluded part of the camp, Thalax paced nervously, his mind racing as he tried to process the mounting reports of mental breakdowns among his troops. He had always been a figure of strength and resolve, but the current situation was testing him in ways he had never anticipated. The once disciplined alien forces were descending into chaos, and Thalax could feel the weight of their collective fear pressing down on him. "What is happening to us?" Thalax muttered to himself, his frustration evident. "This planet? These humans, everything is conspiring against us." He could see the strain in the faces of his officers, the haunted look in their eyes. They were no longer the confident leaders they had once been. The psychological warfare had not only targeted the soldiers, but had also deeply affected those in command. The strain of maintaining control while facing such an insidious enemy was beginning to show. The alien forces, once confident in their technological superiority, were now grappling with a profound sense of vulnerability. The psychological warfare waged by the humans, combined with the aliens' unfamiliarity with Earth's environment, had eroded their sense of security. Thalax's thoughts drifted back to his home planet, Qorath, a world of advanced technology and rigid order. He had once believed that the conquest of Earth would be a straightforward mission, a mere extension of their dominion. But as he looked around at the disarray of the camp, he saw only the shattered remnants of his confidence. "I left everything behind," Thalax said quietly, almost to himself. "I left my family, my home, all for this mission. And now, it feels like it's slipping away." In another part of the camp, Xyril struggled to maintain her composure. Her role as a strategist had been integral to their initial successes, but the ongoing psychological assaults had begun to erode her once unshakable confidence. She thought of her home, the great academies where she had studied the art of war, and how the theories she had once relied on now seemed inadequate. "I thought I understood strategy," Xyril said, her voice filled with self-reproach. "But this is beyond anything I could have anticipated." The humans had not only engaged the aliens in physical combat, but had also waged a war of attrition on their minds. The aliens were being forced to confront their deepest fears and insecurities, and the result was a profound and unsettling crisis of identity. The humans, ever resourceful, continued to exploit the aliens' growing psychological weaknesses. Their tactics evolved to include not only physical attacks, but also psychological manipulation designed to further destabilize the alien forces. The humans used the environment to their advantage, setting traps and creating scenarios that played on the aliens' fears and hallucinations. One night, the aliens were lured into an ambush by a false signal. A beacon, appearing to be a signal from a fellow alien force, drew them into a narrow canyon. As the aliens moved through the canyon, they were met with a series of well-coordinated attacks that left them vulnerable and disoriented. The humans had carefully planned the ambush to exploit the disarray within the alien camp. The psychological impact of these attacks was significant. The aliens, already on edge, found their fears magnified by the humans' tactics. The canyon, with its echoing sounds and shifting shadows, became a place of nightmares, further deepening the aliens' sense of paranoia. The aliens intercepted a cryptic transmission that added another layer of mystery to their situation. The message was fragmented and garbled, but its contents suggested that there was a greater force at play on Earth, something beyond the scope of human understanding. Thalax and his officers gathered around a holographic display, trying to make sense of the message. The fragmented text and eerie static made it difficult to decipher, but the underlying tone was clear. There was a hidden, ominous presence on Earth that even the humans seemed to fear. "This message," Thalax said, his voice tinged with apprehension, "suggests that we are not the only players in this game. There's something else here, something that even the humans don't fully understand. The quiet that followed the battle was unsettling. The alien camp, once a hive of activity and confidence, was now a wasteland of shattered equipment and somber faces. The echoes of the recent conflict hung heavy in the air, a grim reminder of the cost of their invasion. The aftermath was a scene of chaos and devastation. Alien bodies lay strewn across the battlefield, their once sleek and imposing forms now marred by the brutality of the human counterattack. The wounded, their cries of agony blending with the clamor of makeshift medical units, were a stark contrast to the once orderly environment of the alien camp. Thalax, the commander of the alien forces, surveyed the wreckage with a hardened gaze. His normally proud posture was slumped, his eyes scanning the broken remnants of what had been a formidable military setup. The weight of the defeat pressed heavily upon him, each step forward feeling like a struggle against an invisible force that threatened to crush his spirit. "Report," Thalax demanded, his voice carrying a sharp edge as he approached a cluster of alien officers and medics. His authoritative tone, usually commanding respect, now seemed to echo with an undercurrent of desperation. The officers exchanged uneasy glances before one of them, a tall figure named Zoran, stepped forward. "We've sustained significant losses," Zoran reported. "Our numbers are severely depleted. The humans, they're more organized and resourceful than we anticipated. Their guerrilla tactics have left us vulnerable." Thalax clenched his jaw, the anger and frustration evident in his eyes. "I can see that. What about the reinforcements? Were they able to join us in time?" Zoran shook his head. "The reinforcements were delayed. The humans' ambushes and traps prevented them from reaching us. We're effectively cut off and isolated. The remaining forces are in disarray, and morale is at an all-time low." The words hung in the air, each one a harsh reminder of the severity of their situation. Thalax's mind raced, the weight of the command and the responsibility for the lives of his troops bearing down on him. The alien invasion, once an assured victory, now seemed like a distant dream overshadowed by the relentless resolve of the humans. "Prepare a new strategy," Thalax said, his voice firm despite the turmoil within. "We cannot afford to falter. Find out where the humans are regrouping and assess their next move. We need to regain our footing and reclaim our position." As the officers moved to execute his orders, Thalax turned away, his mind consumed by the grim reality of their situation. The alien forces, known for their superiority and dominance, were now faced with a harsh truth: they were no longer invincible. In the command tent, the mood was somber. The high-tech equipment that once buzzed with activity now stood silent, the screens displaying fragmented data and distress signals. The once vibrant holographic maps, filled with colorful indicators of strategic positions, were now marked by red blotches signifying lost territories. A young alien technician, her hands trembling, worked feverishly to stabilize the communication channels. Her anxiety was palpable, a stark contrast to the usual calm efficiency expected in the face of crisis. The alien officers, their faces etched with fatigue and concern, gathered around her, their conversations a murmur of unease and frustration. "Is there any word from the outer squads?" Thalax asked, his voice carrying an edge of impatience. The technician looked up, her eyes wide with worry. "No, Commander. The communications are sporadic. We're having trouble getting a clear signal. It's possible that the humans have set up jamming devices or are intercepting our messages." Thalax's frustration mounted. The humans' ability to adapt and counter their strategies had become increasingly apparent. The once predictable enemy was now a force that seemed to anticipate their every move. The tactical advantage they had once enjoyed was slipping through their fingers. Elsewhere in the camp, the alien soldiers, their armor tarnished and dented from the recent battle, gathered in small groups, their conversations tinged with fear and uncertainty. The once unified front was now a fragmented assembly of individuals grappling with the reality of their situation. The camaraderie that had bound them together was now replaced by a pervasive sense of dread. A particularly disheartened group of soldiers huddled around a makeshift fire, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. "We underestimated them," one of them said, his voice heavy with resignation. "We thought we could crush them easily. Now look at us. We're scattered and vulnerable." Another soldier, his eyes downcast, nodded in agreement. "They've turned our own tactics against us. We're not prepared for this kind of warfare. Their adaptability is beyond anything we expected." The conversation was a stark reflection of the internal turmoil within the alien ranks. The once assured invaders were now grappling with their own vulnerabilities and the stark realization that their mission was not as straightforward as they had believed. Thalax, meanwhile, was in a war room, his focus intently fixed on a holographic display that showed the scattered positions of his forces. The once colorful markers of their strategic advantage were now replaced by red warnings and alerts. The alien commander's mind raced as he tried to formulate a plan that could turn the tide in their favor. As the hours passed, the weight of the defeat continued to press heavily on Thalax. The alien forces, now reduced and demoralized, were a far cry from the imposing military machine they had once been. The realization that their campaign was faltering was a bitter pill to swallow, and the path to recovery seemed fraught with obstacles. The alien camp, now a shadow of its former self, was a place of profound loss and turmoil. The sky above, once clear and indifferent, now seemed to weigh heavily with the burden of defeat. The survivors moved with a subdued urgency, their actions dictated by the need to recover and regroup despite the crushing blow to their morale. In contrast to the bleak atmosphere of the alien camp, the human forces were experiencing a surge of grim determination. The loss of Lieutenant Mark had been a devastating blow, but it had also sparked a fierce resolve among the remaining soldiers. They gathered around makeshift memorials, their faces set in a mix of sorrow and resolve, drawing strength from their fallen comrade's sacrifice. Captain Derek addressed his team, his voice steady despite the gravity of their situation. "Mark gave everything for us. His sacrifice will not be in vain. We owe it to him and to everyone we've lost to keep fighting. We've shown them that we won't back down. Now, we need to press our advantage." The human strategy had evolved from a reactive stance to an aggressive campaign. They began implementing a series of coordinated strikes designed to exploit the alien forces' disarray. Using their intimate knowledge of the terrain and the element of surprise, the humans conducted a series of ambushes and sabotage missions that further destabilized the alien camp. The tactics employed were a testament to human ingenuity and resilience. Small teams of soldiers moved with precision, planting traps and orchestrating diversionary tactics that left the aliens constantly on edge. The sense of urgency and desperation was palpable in the air as the aliens struggled to adapt to this new form of warfare. Amidst the chaos, the personal stories of loss and sacrifice continued to resonate deeply. Jessica, the field medic, was central to the emotional narrative that unfolded. Her grief over her husband's death had become a source of strength and motivation, propelling her to continue fighting despite the overwhelming odds. One evening, as the setting sun cast a soft glow over the battlefield, Jessica sat alone by a small fire, her thoughts a whirlwind of memories and emotions. She held a locket in her hand, a cherished memento of her husband. The locket contained a picture of them together, a symbol of their dreams and hopes. A fellow medic, noticing her somber state, approached quietly. "You don't have to be alone," he said gently. "We're all in this together. We understand what you're going through." Jessica looked up, her eyes reflecting a mixture of sadness and gratitude. "I carry his memory with me every day. It's what keeps me going. I fight not just for survival, but for all the dreams that were lost when he was taken from us." The exchange was a poignant reminder of the personal stakes involved in the conflict. Jessica's story, and the stories of others like her, added a profound layer of emotional depth to the human struggle. The battle was not just a fight for survival, it was a fight for the memories and hopes that defined their lives. Lieutenant Mark's final mission had been a bold attempt to turn the tide of the conflict, but it came at the cost of his life. The operation was executed with a precision that showcased the effectiveness of human tactics, but also highlighted the high price of their success. Mark's death was a powerful symbol of the sacrifices made in the name of survival. His final moments were marked by a resolute expression, a testament to his unwavering commitment to the cause. As he fell, the sight of his body on the battlefield was a stark and tragic reminder of the costs of war. For the human survivors, Mark's death was a rallying cry. The resolve to honor his memory and the collective grief over his loss ignited a fierce determination to continue the fight. The humans rallied around his sacrifice, their spirits galvanized by the need to ensure that his death would not be in vain. The aliens, observing the aftermath of Mark's death, were struck by the depth of human resilience. The sight of the humans' unwavering resolve, even in the face of such loss, was a sobering realization. The once confident invaders were now forced to confront the harsh reality of the human spirit, a spirit that refused to be broken. The brutal defeat and the emotional weight of the alien forces' losses had shifted the dynamics of the conflict. The humans had demonstrated a resilience and strategic acumen that had fundamentally altered the course of the battle. Thalax, standing among the remnants of the alien camp, gazed out at the horizon. The once clear path to victory now seemed obscured by a cloud of uncertainty. The battle had revealed the depth of human resourcefulness and the unyielding resolve that defined their struggle for survival. As the aliens regrouped and attempted to reassess their strategy, the road ahead was fraught with challenges, and the realization that they were no longer the apex predators they had believed themselves to be was a bitter pill to swallow. The fall of their forces had set the stage for a new phase in the conflict, one that would test the limits of their endurance and force them to confront the harsh reality of their situation. The once feared alien invaders were now operating in an altered reality. The recent battles had left them scattered and uncertain, their confidence eroded by the relentless and unexpected human resistance. Among the wreckage of their former strongholds, an unexpected discovery was made: a hidden site buried beneath the Earth's surface, revealed by the strange and shifting patterns of the terrain. Thalax, now leading a dwindling contingent of alien troops, found himself among the ruins of an ancient structure. The site was deep underground, accessed through a labyrinth of tunnels that seemed to pulse with a faint, eerie energy. The walls were adorned with symbols and artifacts that bore no resemblance to anything the aliens had encountered before. The atmosphere within the site was heavy, charged with an inexplicable tension. As the aliens explored the chambers, they found murals depicting scenes of early humans, engaged in rituals that seemed both primitive and profoundly connected to the Earth. These images showed humans not just surviving but thriving, their actions resonating with the very essence of the planet. Dr. Alaya, a xenobiologist among the alien forces, studied the artifacts with a mixture of fascination and apprehension. These symbols, they're unlike anything we've seen. It's as if they represent a connection between humanity and the Earth that goes beyond physical existence. The deeper the aliens ventured into the site, the more they uncovered about the intrinsic bond between humans and their world. There were inscriptions that spoke of a primordial force, one that had shaped humanity's evolution and survival. The aliens were confronted with a truth that was both profound and unsettling: the realization that humans were not just a species thriving on their planet, but were intertwined with its very essence. The revelations at the site prompted deep reflection among the alien leaders. Thalax, a being whose understanding of existence had always been rooted in conquest and dominance, found himself grappling with questions he had never considered before. The murals and artifacts depicted humans not as mere creatures, but as entities deeply embedded within a larger cosmic order. In a rare moment of introspection, Thalax addressed his remaining commanders. What we are seeing here challenges our understanding of life and death. These beings are not just fighting for survival. They are part of a greater whole, connected to the very fabric of their world. We must ask ourselves, what does it mean to be a predator in the face of such profound connection? The philosophical implications of their discovery were immense. The aliens began to question their own purpose and existence. The idea that their species, once confident in its superiority, might be just one part of a vast and intricate cosmic design was both humbling and disorienting. The murals depicted ancient ceremonies where humans seemed to harness the power of the earth itself, suggesting a spiritual connection that went beyond mere survival. The aliens were forced to confront the possibility that their own perception of reality and purpose might be incomplete, overshadowed by a deeper, more enigmatic force. As the aliens delved deeper into the site, they inadvertently triggered a series of events that awakened something dormant within the earth. The ground trembled, and a low, resonant hum filled the chambers, growing in intensity. The walls began to shift, revealing hidden passages that had remained sealed for eons. Alara and her team observed the changes with a mix of awe and dread. "We've disturbed something ancient and powerful. The energy readings are off the charts. It's as if we've awoken a force that was meant to remain undisturbed." This dormant force, though inscrutable, seemed to respond to the presence of the aliens with a palpable sense of awareness. The ancient site began to react, its hidden mechanisms coming to life. Strange phenomena occurred, time seemed to warp, and the boundary between the physical and the metaphysical blurred. The force was neither clearly benevolent nor malevolent. It operated on a scale and with an intent that was beyond the aliens' comprehension. The discovery and subsequent awakening of this force had a profound impact on the alien invaders. The realization that they were not just battling humans, but were now up against an ancient, primordial power fundamentally altered their perception of the conflict. The Earth itself seemed to have become a living entity, protecting humanity with a force that was beyond their ability to fully grasp or combat. The aliens were no longer merely confronting the humans' tenacity and ingenuity, but were now entangled in a struggle against a force that had shaped humanity's very essence. The implications were staggering. This was not just a battle for survival, it was a confrontation with the primal core of existence itself. As Thalax and his remaining forces retreated from the site, their minds were clouded with the weight of what they had uncovered. The ancient force had cast a shadow over their confidence, and the battle ahead promised to be a struggle not just against the humans, but against an unfathomable power that transcended their understanding. Thalax and his remaining forces stumbled out of the ancient site, their minds reeling from the unsettling discoveries they had uncovered. The once clear purpose of their invasion was now obscured by the complexity of what lay beneath the Earth's surface. The profound connection between humans and their planet, along with the mysterious force they had awakened, created a new and intimidating reality. The alien camp, now filled with a tangible sense of anxiety, reflected the internal turmoil of its occupants. Thalax, grappling with the implications of their discovery, convened a meeting with his senior officers. The once confident leader now appeared weary, his gaze distant as he contemplated the enormity of their situation. "What we have unleashed," Thalax began, his voice strained, "is beyond anything we have encountered. The force beneath the Earth is not merely a physical entity, but a manifestation of something far more ancient and powerful. It operates on a level that defies our understanding." One of the commanders, a being known for its tactical prowess, raised a question. "How do we confront something that transcends our grasp of reality? This force, it doesn't adhere to any of our known principles. It's as if we're up against the very essence of existence itself." Thalax's expression hardened as he responded. "We must adapt. Our knowledge and strategies must evolve if we are to stand a chance against this new threat. We cannot rely solely on brute force or traditional tactics. This situation requires a new approach, one that acknowledges the depth of what we are facing." As the alien leaders contemplated their next steps, the effects of their intrusion into the ancient site began to manifest in increasingly alarming ways. Strange occurrences plagued their camp, equipment malfunctioned, strange noises echoed through the night, and members of the alien forces reported disorienting visions. The once familiar world of the invaders now seemed to be shifting beneath their feet. The enigmatic force, now fully awakened, seemed to communicate through these disturbances. The air crackled with an energy that was both unsettling and awe-inspiring. The sense of being watched, of an unseen presence, grew ever stronger. The aliens were no longer merely fighting against humans. They were grappling with a primal force that seemed to envelop the very planet itself. In the heart of the alien camp, Thalax reviewed the data collected from their exploration. The symbols and artifacts they had uncovered were now understood to be part of a larger cosmic design. The connection between humans and the Earth was not just spiritual, but intertwined with the very fabric of existence. The realization that they were up against a force that had shaped human evolution and survival added a layer of gravity to their predicament. The aliens' understanding of humanity took on a new dimension. The humans were not merely resilient or resourceful, they were part of a grander scheme, a design that encompassed their entire existence. This realization forced the aliens to reconsider their approach to the conflict. They were no longer fighting against a species. They were contending with the essence of a living, breathing world that had been evolving for millennia. Amid the growing uncertainty, Thalax found himself at a crossroads. The tactical and strategic elements of their invasion had to be reassessed in light of the new reality they faced. The ancient force was not just a physical adversary, but a manifestation of the Earth's deep, intrinsic power. The aliens began to experience a profound shift in their perspective. The ancient site had revealed that the true nature of their struggle was intertwined with existential questions about life, death, and purpose. The line between predator and prey, conqueror and guardian, had blurred in a way that challenged their fundamental understanding of the universe. As the alien forces prepared for the next phase of their campaign, they did so with a newfound respect for the complexity of their situation. The force they had awakened was not merely a complication, it was a fundamental aspect of the cosmic balance. The battle ahead would not be just a fight for survival, but a struggle against a force that had shaped the very world they sought to dominate. The stage was set for an unprecedented confrontation. The conflict between the aliens and humans was no longer just a clash of civilizations, but a contest against the primal essence of the Earth itself. The outcome was uncertain, and the path forward was fraught with challenges. The aliens were poised to face a force beyond their comprehension, and the battle for dominance had taken on a new, profound significance. The air in the alien camp was thick with tension and anticipation as the invaders prepared for what lay ahead. The awakening of the ancient force had transformed the conflict into a struggle of cosmic proportions, and the resolution remained as elusive as ever. The once quiet planet roared with a fury that seemed to resonate from its very core. The ancient force that had been inadvertently awakened by the aliens now exerted its dominance with an unrestrained power, causing chaos and destruction on an unprecedented scale. Thalax and his remaining forces, already on edge from the mounting pressure and uncertainty, were suddenly thrown into a nightmare. The ground trembled violently, sending ripples through the alien camp. Structures that had withstood the test of time were reduced to rubble in mere moments. A massive earthquake split the landscape, creating gaping fissures that swallowed entire battalions. The sky darkened, filled with ominous clouds that seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. The alien troops scrambled in panic as torrential rains poured down, transforming the battlefield into a treacherous swamp. Lightning crackled across the sky, striking with pinpoint precision. The storms were not random. They seemed to target the alien forces with a deliberate precision, as if the planet itself was waging war against the invaders. In the midst of the turmoil, the humans appeared almost eerily calm. They moved with a practiced ease, their instincts finely tuned to the planet's rhythms. Where the aliens floundered, the humans navigated the disaster with a resilience born of deep, primal understanding. It was as if they had always been in tune with the Earth's moods, capable of surviving where others faltered. A group of humans huddled around a small fire, their faces illuminated by its flickering light as they discussed their next move. Their eyes, though weary, held a fierce determination. They had seen their world devastated, their homes lost, but their spirit was unbroken. The ancient force that had empowered them was now guiding their actions, helping them survive and even thrive amidst the chaos. Thalax's voice was filled with despair as he communicated with his commanders through a secure channel. "We are being hunted by the very planet we sought to conquer. The storms, the earthquakes, they are targeting us directly. We need to retreat, but the Earth itself is making escape impossible." The response from his second-in-command was equally grim. We're running out of options, Thalax. The environment is turning against us, and our resources are dwindling. The humans seem to be benefiting from the disasters, using them to their advantage, while we are left to face the full brunt of nature's wrath. Desperation drove Thalax to make a critical decision. The remaining alien forces began a frantic evacuation, attempting to escape the relentless natural disasters. Yet, their every move seemed to be anticipated by the planet. The ground beneath them shifted unpredictably, creating obstacles that were both physical and psychological. As the aliens fought to escape, their retreat was continually thwarted by natural phenomena. Tornadoes appeared out of nowhere, ripping through their ranks with terrifying force. Rivers, swollen from the ceaseless rain, surged with a violent intensity, sweeping away anything in their path. The once familiar terrain had transformed into a hostile and unpredictable landscape. The humans, meanwhile, grew bolder. Empowered by their connection to the ancient force, they became relentless pursuers. They exploited the disasters to herd the alien forces into traps, using the chaos to their advantage. The hunters had become the hunted, and the once powerful invaders were now vulnerable and disoriented. In the alien camp, panic was evident. Thalax's usually composed demeanor had shattered, replaced by a frenzied desperation. His forces, driven to the brink of exhaustion, struggled to maintain cohesion amidst the continuous onslaught of natural calamities. Every attempt to regroup was thwarted by the ever-changing and hostile environment. As the alien forces attempted to regroup, another layer of conflict emerged within their ranks. The planet's Phi had not only wreaked havoc on their physical presence, but had also exposed fault lines in their unity. Distrust and discord began to spread among the remaining troops, compounding their already dire situation. At the same time, a faction of humans began to reveal their own hidden agendas. A group within the human ranks, having gained significant power from the ancient force, sought to seize control of it for their own purposes. This faction's ambitions led them to turn against their fellow humans, creating a new and dangerous dynamic within the human camp. Amidst the chaos and betrayal, Thalax witnessed the dawning realization of the true nature of their struggle. The once clear lines of predator and prey had blurred. The humans, in their profound connection with Earth, had emerged as the ultimate predators, their survival intertwined with the planet's wrath. The alien forces, now reduced to a beleaguered remnant, found themselves at the mercy of a world they could no longer comprehend. The destruction wrought by the awakened force left the aliens in a state of near-total disarray. Their once confident approach to conquest had been shattered, replaced by the harsh reality of their situation. The planet itself had become an adversary they could neither defeat nor escape, and their once dominant position had been reduced to a desperate fight for survival. The relentless storms and cataclysmic events continued to ravage the alien forces. Thalax's once formidable battalion was now a fragmented collection of desperate soldiers. The earthquake's aftermath left their camp in ruins, with alien vehicles buried under tons of debris and their supplies scattered. The atmosphere was heavy with the acrid smell of sulfur and smoke from burning wreckage. Thalax stood at the edge of the makeshift command center, watching as the sky roiled with dark clouds. Each lightning strike seemed to illuminate the raw terror in his soldiers' eyes. They huddled together, their once rigid formations now reduced to a disorganized mess. Thalax's own mind raced, torn between the realization of their hopeless situation and the need to maintain some semblance of order. "We must stabilize the situation," Thalax shouted, though his voice was barely audible over the roar of the storm. "Re-establish communication with any remaining units. We need to coordinate a plan to escape this chaos." His orders were met with a mixture of resignation and fear. The soldiers struggled to set up their equipment, but the continuous barrage of rain and wind made it nearly impossible. The planet seemed to be taunting them, its fury undiminished and unrelenting. Every time they thought they had found a moment of respite, the elements would strike again, more violently than before. The alien forces tried to regroup, but their efforts were in vain. The land itself had turned hostile. Rivers that had once been manageable streams now surged with terrifying speed, carrying away alien equipment and soldiers alike. The ground was pocked with craters, remnants of lightning strikes that had left deep, smoldering scars. Trees were uprooted and flung about like mere twigs, adding to the destruction. Amidst this devastation, the humans continued to exhibit an eerie calm. They seemed to be moving with purpose and precision, navigating the hazards with a confidence that baffled their alien adversaries. Their understanding of the land, combined with the ancient force's guidance, allowed them to turn every disaster to their advantage. They used the storms as cover, their movements fluid and strategic, while the aliens stumbled in confusion. In a small, dimly lit command tent, the humans gathered around a flickering holographic map. The air was thick with tension as they discussed their next move. Sarah, one of the key strategists, pointed to the map with determination. "We need to capitalize on their disarray. Their communication is failing, and they're scattered. We strike now, while they're at their weakest." Her words were met with nods of agreement. The humans had learned to adapt and survive, and now they were ready to reclaim their world from the invaders. The ancient force had not only empowered them physically, but had also given them a newfound clarity. They had become one with the planet, understanding its rhythms and harnessing its power. As the humans prepared for their assault, Thalax's command tent was filled with voices raised in frustration and panic. "We can't keep going like this," one of his lieutenants shouted. "We're losing ground. The planet is actively working against us." Another soldier, her face pale and drawn, added, "We've lost contact with several units. They're being picked off one by one. We're completely isolated." Thalax's frustration was palpable. He tried to maintain control, but the situation was spiraling out of his hands. The psychological toll of the continuous natural disasters was taking its toll on the alien troops. Their once formidable morale had been eroded by the ceaseless attacks and the growing sense of futility. The humans struck with precision. They used the ongoing storms to mask their movements, launching surprise attacks on the alien forces. Explosions erupted as the humans targeted critical points within the alien camp. Alien soldiers who had been scrambling to defend themselves were caught off guard, their defensive positions rendered useless against the coordinated human assault. During the chaos, Thalax watched as his soldiers fell, one by one. The relentless assault from the humans, combined with the unyielding wrath of the planet, left him with a profound sense of dread. His once confident demeanor was replaced by a grim realization of their dire circumstances. The invaders who had once been so certain of their superiority were now reduced to a fractured and demoralized force. In a particularly brutal encounter, a group of human soldiers ambushed a key alien position. The scene was one of carnage. Aliens, caught in the open, were torn apart by gunfire and explosions. The screams of the wounded and the dying were drowned out by the thunderous roar of the storm. The humans pressed their advantage, showing no mercy to the invaders who had dared to challenge their world. The betrayal within the human ranks added another layer of complexity to the conflict. A faction that sought to control the ancient force had turned against their own. This internal strife resulted in a climactic confrontation between the traitors and those loyal to the cause. The ensuing battle was fierce and bloody, with the traitors' ambitions clashing violently with the dedicated forces of the remaining humans. As the infighting raged, Thalax's forces found themselves in an increasingly precarious position. The planet's fury seemed to be inescapable, and the humans' strategic advantage became even more pronounced. The alien troops, now isolated and demoralized, faced an unrelenting assault from both the planet and their human adversaries. Humans' coordination and understanding of the planet's forces had become a formidable weapon. The remaining alien forces, on the brink of collapse, found themselves with no clear path to escape. The realization that they were no longer the apex predators, but mere prey in a world they could not control, left Thalax and his troops with a profound sense of despair. As the storm continued to rage and the battles intensified, the true scope of the conflict became clear. The once invincible aliens were now facing a force that combined the raw power of Earth with the unyielding determination of its human inhabitants. The struggle for survival had reached a crescendo, with both sides locked in a desperate fight that would determine the fate of their worlds. The alien forces, now scattered and shattered, struggled to regroup amidst the relentless chaos. The natural disasters had escalated beyond their control. Volcanoes erupted with terrifying force, sending lava flows cascading down hillsides and turning once familiar landscapes into rivers of molten rock. The seismic activity had shattered the terrain, creating deep fissures that swallowed both alien equipment and personnel. The air was thick with ash and smoke, casting an eerie, reddish haze over everything. Thalax, his once impeccable uniform now tattered and stained, tried to maintain a semblance of order among the wreckage. His face, marked by deep lines of exhaustion, was etched with a look of grim determination. The relentless storm had become a constant companion, its howling winds and torrential rains deafening, nearly drowning out the cries of his remaining soldiers. "Set up the defenses," Thalax barked, his voice hoarse from the strain. "We need to secure a perimeter. If we can hold out until the storms pass, we might have a chance to regroup." The soldiers, their faces pale and drawn, scrambled to obey. They worked with a frenzied energy, their movements desperate as they tried to fortify their position against the onslaught of nature. But every attempt to stabilize their defenses seemed futile. The storms and earthquakes continually dismantled their efforts, making any progress short-lived. Meanwhile, the humans continued their relentless assault, exploiting every weakness and turning the planet's fury into a weapon against the invaders. They seemed to be everywhere at once, their movements synchronized with the natural disasters. From the shadows, they launched precision strikes, targeting critical points within the alien camp. Explosions erupted, throwing alien soldiers into chaos. The humans used the cover of the storm to their advantage, launching attacks from unexpected angles. The storm had become an ally to the humans, a living force that they had learned to navigate and utilize. Their strategy involved drawing the aliens into the worst of the disasters, using the storms as both a shield and a weapon. Each lightning strike and surge of rain seemed to coordinate with their attacks, creating a terrifying synergy that left the aliens disoriented and vulnerable. Amidst the chaos, the humans faced their own internal strife. A faction within their ranks, driven by ambition and greed, sought to seize control of the ancient force. Their betrayal was a devastating blow, leading to a brutal confrontation within the human camp. The traitors, armed with their own version of the ancient power, clashed violently with those who remained loyal to the cause. The battle was fierce, filled with the sounds of gunfire, shouts, and the occasional burst of energy from the ancient force. Despite the internal conflict, the humans' determination remained unwavering. They had been shaped by their connection to the earth, and their unity in the face of adversity was their greatest strength. As the internal battles raged, they continued to push forward, their resolve only strengthened by the betrayals and the relentless assault of the natural world. Thalax's desperation grew as the alien forces continued to crumble. The planet's fury seemed to be unending, with each new disaster more severe than the last. The lava flows had reached their position, cutting off their escape routes and forcing them into a shrinking area. The remaining alien soldiers were worn down, their spirits broken by the constant barrage of attacks and the overwhelming power of the natural world. The humans, emboldened by their success and the ancient force's protection, pressed their advantage. They moved with a precision and confidence that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. They had become an unstoppable force, their tactics and strategies honed to perfection by their deep connection with the earth. In a final, desperate attempt to turn the tide, Thalax ordered a full-scale retreat. The remaining alien forces were to fall back, regroup, and attempt to escape the relentless wrath of the planet. But the planet had no intention of letting them go. The Earth's fury intensified, and every attempt to flee was met with increased resistance. The once mighty alien invaders were now caught in a death spiral, their efforts to escape thwarted at every turn. As the alien forces were systematically destroyed, the humans watched with a mix of grim satisfaction and unrelenting focus. Their world had been defended, and they had become the true apex predators, not just through brute strength, but through their deep connection to the planet and their unwavering determination to survive. Thalax's eyes, filled with a mixture of defeat and awe, surveyed the devastation. The planet had shown its true power, and the alien invaders had been humbled by the sheer force of nature. The realization hit Thalax with a crushing weight. They had come to Earth believing themselves to be the ultimate predators, only to find that they were merely prey in a world governed by forces beyond their comprehension. The storm continued to rage, a fitting backdrop to the collapse of the alien invasion. The Earth had reclaimed its dominance, and the humans, with their newfound understanding and harmony with their world, stood victorious. The true nature of the conflict had been revealed, and the aliens' attempts to conquer Earth had ended in a profound and humbling defeat. The remnants of the alien forces gathered on the edge of a once thriving city, now a ruinous battleground scarred by nature's wrath and the ravages of war. The city's skyline, once a symbol of alien power, was now an apocalyptic backdrop to the final clash. Smoke billowed from fractured skyscrapers, and the air was thick with dust and the stench of burning debris. The alien forces, diminished and battered, formed a ragged line of defense. Their armor was dented and scorched, their weapons malfunctioning from the relentless environmental assault. Thalax, their once commanding leader, now stood as a symbol of their desperate resolve. His gaze, hardened by countless battles and betrayals, was fixed on the approaching human forces. He knew this would be their last chance, a final attempt to reclaim some semblance of victory. The humans, though exhausted and scarred from their battles, advanced with a grim determination. Their numbers were smaller now, their losses heavy, but their spirits were unyielding. The deep connection they had forged with their planet had become a powerful tool, a source of strength that was reflected in their every movement. They moved with purpose, their faces set in expressions of resolve and sorrow. The ancient force, once a mysterious ally, was now a force that they wielded with confidence and precision. The final confrontation began with a deafening roar as the alien and human forces clashed. Explosions erupted as both sides unleashed their remaining firepower. Alien weapons fired with a frantic intensity, their energy blasts streaking through the air and striking human defenses. The humans responded with coordinated strikes, their tactics honed by the countless battles they had fought and won. In the midst of the chaos, individual stories of sacrifice and bravery emerged. On the alien side, a warrior named Vark, who had once been a fierce enforcer, now fought with a desperation born of knowing this was his final stand. His combat was fierce and unrelenting, his every move driven by a mix of anger and sorrow. He fought alongside Thalax, their bond forged in the fires of battle, now strained under the weight of imminent defeat. Vark's sacrifice came as the tide of battle turned against them. As human forces advanced, he made a last, defiant charge toward their command center. His actions were both heroic and tragic, a final, desperate attempt to shift the outcome. He succeeded in breaching the human lines, but was overwhelmed by the sheer number of defenders. His final moments were a mixture of rage and resignation, a poignant end to a warrior who had fought for a cause that now seemed doomed. On the human side, a soldier named Mira, who had become a symbol of their unyielding spirit, faced a different kind of sacrifice. Mira's backstory was one of personal loss and deep-rooted love for her family. Her motivations were tied to the promise she had made to protect her loved ones. As the battle reached its climax, Mira took a critical position, sacrificing herself to ensure the survival of her comrades. Her actions were a powerful testament to the human spirit, a blend of love and duty that resonated through the battlefield. The battle raged on, each side suffering heavy casualties. The alien forces, already weakened by the planet's fury and their internal strife, began to falter under the relentless pressure. Their defensive lines were breached, and their soldiers were pushed back, their ranks thinning with each passing moment. The humans, driven by the dual forces of survival and the weight of their sacrifices, pressed forward. Their tactics were unrelenting, exploiting every weakness in the alien defenses. The ancient force, now fully harnessed, provided them with an edge that the aliens could not match. The planet itself seemed to aid their efforts, with natural disasters intensifying and creating further obstacles for the alien invaders. In the heart of the battle, Thalax fought with a ferocity born of desperation. He had lost many of his comrades and seen his forces dwindle to a fraction of their original strength. His every action was a testament to his resolve, but even he could not stem the tide of the human onslaught. The realization of his impending defeat was a heavy burden, one that he carried with a mixture of defiance and acceptance. As the final clash reached its zenith, the humans managed to gain the upper hand. The alien forces, now largely defeated, were forced into a final retreat. Thalax, his armor battered and his strength waning, stood amidst the ruins of his once proud campaign. The battle had been brutal and costly, but the humans had emerged victorious. The aftermath of the battle was a somber scene. The battlefield was littered with the remnants of both alien and human forces. The air was filled with the echoes of the conflict, the sounds of mourning and the whispers of the fallen. The victory, though hard-earned, was tinged with the bitter taste of loss. The humans stood amidst the wreckage, their faces marked by exhaustion and sorrow. They had achieved their victory, but it had come at a great cost. The sacrifices made on both sides had left deep scars, and the realization of what they had endured and lost weighed heavily on their hearts. The final confrontation had been a testament to their resilience and their connection to the earth, but it had also revealed the profound cost of their struggle. As the sun set over the ravaged landscape, the humans began to gather their wounded and assess the damage. The victory was theirs, but the price had been steep. The remnants of the alien forces assembled in a desolate expanse, where the once thriving city now lay in ruin. The skyline, once a symbol of alien supremacy, was a chaotic sprawl of shattered structures and billowing smoke. The aftermath of the relentless battle had left the area a wasteland of scorched metal and debris. The alien defenders, their numbers diminished and their equipment failing, formed a final, desperate line of resistance. Their once pristine armor was dented and scorched, their weapons malfunctioning from exposure to the harsh environment and relentless human attacks. Thalax, the alien commander, stood amidst his beleaguered troops, his once commanding presence now a symbol of their last, futile hope. His gaze was a mix of fierce resolve and grim acceptance as he faced the advancing human forces. The battle had taken its toll, and he knew this would be their final stand. The human forces, though weary and scarred from the prolonged conflict, advanced with a grim determination. Their numbers had dwindled, and the cost of their struggle was evident in their haggard appearance. Despite their exhaustion, their spirits remained unyielding, driven by their connection to the planet and the ancient force they had harnessed. This force, now a vital part of their strategy, gave them a significant edge in the final clash. The final confrontation erupted with explosive ferocity. The sounds of battle-blaring weapons, the thunderous explosions of energy blasts, and the clash of metal filled the air. Alien weaponry, once fearsome, now fired with frantic intensity, their energy blasts streaking through the air. The humans, prepared for this moment, responded with coordinated, calculated strikes, their tactics refined through relentless battles. Amid the chaos, personal acts of sacrifice and bravery became apparent. On the alien side, Varric, a seasoned warrior and Thalax's trusted ally, fought with a desperation born of knowing that their defeat was imminent. His combat was a whirlwind of anger and sorrow as he fought alongside Thalax, their bond forged in battle, but strained under the weight of their imminent failure. Varric's last act of defiance came as he made a final, desperate charge towards the human command center. Though he breached their lines, he was ultimately overwhelmed, his final moments a blend of rage and resignation. On the human side, Mira emerged as a symbol of their indomitable spirit. Her personal loss and deep-seated love for her family had driven her actions throughout the conflict. As the battle reached its climax, Mira took a critical position, sacrificing herself to ensure her comrades' survival. Her actions embodied the blend of love and duty that had guided the humans throughout their struggle. The battle continued with each side suffering heavy casualties. The alien forces, weakened by the planet's fury and their internal strife, began to falter under the relentless human assault. The defensive lines crumbled, and their soldiers were pushed back, their ranks thinning with every passing moment. The humans, driven by the weight of their sacrifices and their survival instincts, pressed forward. Their tactics, honed through experience and bolstered by the ancient force, exploited every weakness in the alien defenses. The planet itself seemed to aid their efforts, with natural disasters intensifying and creating further obstacles for the invaders. In the heart of the conflict, Thalax fought with a desperate ferocity. His forces, once numerous and formidable, had dwindled to a fraction of their former strength. Each of his actions was a testament to his resolve, but even his formidable prowess could not stem the tide of the human onslaught. His realization of impending defeat was heavy, marked by a mixture of defiance and resignation. As the final clash reached its peak, the humans achieved the upper hand. The alien forces, now largely defeated, were forced into a final retreat. Thalax, battered and exhausted, stood amidst the ruins of his campaign. The battle had been brutal and costly, but the humans had emerged victorious. The aftermath of the battle was somber. The battlefield, littered with the remnants of both alien and human forces, echoed with the sounds of mourning and loss. The victory, though hard-won, was marred by the high cost of the conflict. The survivors, marked by exhaustion and sorrow, began the grim task of assessing the damage and honoring their fallen comrades. The once grand city, now a symbol of the devastating cost of victory, lay in ruins. The destruction and loss of life weighed heavily on the humans. The victory, significant though it was, felt hollow in light of the profound sacrifices and the harsh truths revealed during the struggle. As the sun set over the devastated landscape, they began the difficult process of rebuilding, their minds and hearts forever marked by the echoes of the battle and the truths uncovered during their struggle. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the devastated battlefield, the humans gathered to reflect on their victory. The city that had once been a symbol of alien dominance was now a graveyard of dreams and ambitions. The smoke and dust hung in the air like a shroud, and the silence was punctuated by the occasional cry of a wounded soldier or the somber murmur of those beginning the arduous task of sifting through the wreckage. Thalax, the alien commander, stood amid the ruins, his once commanding presence now a broken echo of his former self. His armor was battered and scorched, and his energy blade, once a symbol of his strength, now lay dimmed at his side. The alien forces, having sustained grievous losses, were now in retreat, their morale shattered. Thalax's gaze, though fierce and unyielding, held a deep weariness. He had seen the last of his comrades fall and faced the grim reality of their defeat. The humans, victorious but profoundly scarred, moved through the debris-strewn landscape. Their expressions were a mix of relief and sorrow, their faces etched with the marks of their trials. The victory had come at a steep price, and the cost of their struggle was evident in their haggard appearance and the solemnity of their actions. Mira, whose sacrifice had been a turning point in the battle, was remembered as a symbol of their unyielding spirit. Her courage and dedication had been instrumental in their triumph, and her loss was a heavy burden on her comrades. As night fell, the battlefield took on an even more somber tone. The humans, though victorious, faced the grim task of accounting for their losses and honoring the fallen. The once grand city, now a crumbling monument to their struggle, stood as a stark reminder of the cost of their fight. The destruction and the heavy toll of the conflict were a testament to the sacrifices made on both sides. The survivors began the difficult process of rebuilding, their efforts marked by a deep sense of loss. The ancient force, once a powerful ally, had been both a blessing and a curse. Its power had given the humans an edge in the final battle, but the victory had come at a tremendous cost. The planet itself, which had once seemed an ally, had revealed its harsh truths and the devastating consequences of their struggle. In the quiet moments after the battle, the humans gathered to pay their respects to those who had fallen. Their victory, though hard-won, was overshadowed by the profound sense of loss and the harsh realities of their world. The echoes of the battle lingered in their hearts, shaping their understanding of their place in the universe and the true cost of their struggle. As the sun set over the ravaged landscape, the humans looked out over the remnants of their once thriving city. The victory had been achieved, but the price had been steep. The task of rebuilding was daunting, and the emotional scars of the battle would take time to heal. The survivors stood amidst the ruins, their faces marked by exhaustion and sorrow, their hearts heavy with the memories of the conflict. The battle had been a testament to their resilience, but it had also revealed the profound cost of their fight and the harsh truths of their world. The aftermath of the battle was a somber tableau of ruin and reflection. The once magnificent city, now a skeletal remnant of its former self, lay in silence, a mournful echo of the fierce conflict that had unfolded. The sun, now a waning ember in the sky, cast long, fading shadows across the shattered streets. It was here, amidst the remnants of their victory and the stark reality of their losses, that the humans gathered to seek meaning in their struggle. Eli, who had once been a solitary figure on the fringes of this conflict, now stood at the heart of the human camp. His gaze was fixed on the horizon, where the last rays of sunlight struggled through the thick haze of smoke. The battle had transformed him, as it had all those who had fought and survived. The burden of leadership and the weight of loss had etched deep lines into his face, but his eyes remained clear, searching for understanding in the wake of devastation. The survivors, each marked by their own trials, gathered around makeshift fires, their faces illuminated by the flickering light. Conversations were hushed, the camaraderie of the past weeks replaced by a reflective silence. The city, with its towering ruins and smoldering remains, stood as a testament to the price of their victory and the complexities of their existence. In this moment of quiet, the question that lingered was not just about what they had lost, but what they had gained. The ancient force, which had been a mysterious ally, had played a pivotal role in their triumph, but it had also revealed the brutal truths of their world. The humans had harnessed its power, but they had paid dearly for it. The reflection on their journey was not merely about the tactical victories or the strategic advantages, but about the deeper, more elusive truths that had emerged from their struggle. Eli's thoughts turned to Thalax, the alien commander who had been both adversary and symbol of the broader conflict. The alien's final stand, filled with desperation and resolve, had mirrored the human experience in many ways. Thalax had fought for his cause with unwavering determination, and his defeat had come as a result of both his own and the universe's harsh truths. The reflection on Thalax's fate, and that of the alien forces, posed a deeper question about the nature of struggle and the cost of ambition. The battlefield, with its stark reminders of human and alien sacrifices, served as a crucible for philosophical inquiry. It was in this desolate space that the survivors confronted the essence of their conflict. The victory, while hard-won, seemed ephemeral in the face of the broader existential questions. What had been the true cost of their struggle? What did their victory signify in the grand scheme of existence? And what, ultimately, did it mean to have emerged victorious from such a devastating conflict? As the sun dipped lower, the humans gathered their thoughts and began to contemplate the nature of their existence. The city, with its broken structures and quiet ruins, was no longer just a battleground, but a reflection of the broader human experience. It stood as a silent witness to the harsh realities of life, the inevitability of conflict, and the profound depths of sacrifice. The philosophical weight of their victory began to sink in. The struggle had not only been a fight for survival, but a journey into the very heart of what it meant to be human. The ancient force, which had seemed so pivotal, was now understood as both a gift and a burden. It had revealed the limits of power and the price of wielding such force. The reflection on their victory and its cost was a reminder of the delicate balance between power and responsibility, ambition and consequence. In this quiet moment of reflection, the survivors faced the existential questions that their struggle had unearthed. The city, with its ruins and echoes of conflict, became a metaphor for their own internal battles. The victory, while significant, was intertwined with the deeper understanding of their place in the universe and the nature of their existence. The remnants of the human camp continued to reflect on the profound nature of their experience. The survivors, while physically exhausted, were mentally engaged in a deep, introspective analysis of their journey. The ravaged city, with its haunting emptiness and silent ruins, seemed to embody the existential questions that had surfaced in the wake of the battle. The survivors gathered around a central fire, its flames casting eerie shadows on their faces. Eli stood apart, his thoughts consumed by the larger implications of their victory. He observed the flickering flames and the ruins around them, grappling with the realization that their triumph was but a fleeting moment in the grand expanse of time and existence. a young soldier, Nia, voiced what many were feeling. "We've fought so hard and lost so much. What does it all mean? Why did it have to be this way?" Her voice was tinged with a mixture of sorrow and bewilderment. Her question resonated with the group, highlighting the search for meaning in their seemingly senseless struggle. The city, once a symbol of alien dominance, had been reduced to a landscape of ashes and echoes. It was a stark reminder of the impermanence of human endeavors and the transient nature of power. The survivors contemplated this reality, understanding that their victory was both significant and ephemeral, a fleeting moment in the ongoing cycle of conflict and resolution. The philosophical discourse among the survivors delved into the nature of existence itself. They pondered the implications of their struggle in the context of the universe's vast, indifferent expanse. The ancient force, once a source of unparalleled power, now appeared as a double-edged sword. It had been both a tool of victory and a harbinger of the harsh truths they had uncovered about themselves and their world. Eli's thoughts turned to the concept of purpose. The ancient force had granted them an edge, but it also brought to light the limitations and consequences of wielding such power. It had revealed the fragility of their existence and the inherent challenges of confronting forces beyond their understanding. The victory they had achieved was a testament to their resilience, but it was also a reminder of the inherent struggles that define the human condition. As night descended, the survivors engaged in deep conversations about the nature of conflict and resolution. The battle, though over, had left them with a profound understanding of the cyclical nature of struggle. The city's ruins were a reflection of the broader existential cycle, a reminder that every victory is shadowed by the inevitability of new conflicts and challenges. Eli shared his own reflections with the group. "We've fought for survival and sought meaning in our struggles, but the true nature of our existence is far beyond the battles we fight. It's about understanding the balance between power and responsibility, and finding meaning in our choices and actions." The survivors listened intently, grappling with the complexity of their experiences. The city, with its silent ruins, served as a backdrop for their introspection. They realized that their struggle was not just about defeating an enemy, but about confronting the deeper truths of their own existence. The conversation shifted towards the idea of legacy. What would their victory mean in the broader context of their lives and the world they inhabited? The survivors understood that their actions would be remembered, but the true significance lay in the lessons they had learned and the changes they had undergone. Their victory was a momentary triumph in the face of a vast and indifferent universe, a fleeting yet profound reflection of their journey. As the night deepened, the survivors continued their philosophical discourse, exploring the nature of existence, power, and responsibility. The city, with its haunting silence and remnants of conflict, became a symbol of their deeper understanding of the world and their place within it. Their victory was both a triumph and a reminder of the ongoing quest for meaning in the face of an ever-changing and often indifferent universe. As dawn broke over the devastated city, the first light of day illuminated the scarred landscape. The survivors, weary and contemplative, prepared for the task of rebuilding while reflecting on the profound revelations that had emerged from their experiences. The morning light seemed to carry with it a quiet promise of renewal and understanding. Eli, who had been deeply engrossed in his thoughts, took a moment to observe the horizon. The once majestic skyline now stood as a testament to both the destruction and the resilience that had defined their struggle. The sun's rays pierced through the smoke and debris, casting a soft, almost ethereal glow over the ruins. It was as if the universe itself was acknowledging their victory and their newfound wisdom. Gathering the survivors, Eli addressed them with a sense of solemn clarity. "We have endured immense hardship and faced the darkest aspects of our existence. Yet, in our struggle, we have glimpsed the deeper truths of our being. Our journey has shown us that while we are but small parts of an infinite universe, our actions and choices resonate far beyond our immediate experience." The survivors, now gathered in a circle amidst the ruins, listened with a mixture of reverence and introspection. Eli's words resonated with their shared experiences and the philosophical insights they had gained. The battle they had fought, the sacrifices they had made, and the victory they had achieved had all been moments of profound significance. each contributing to a larger, cosmic narrative. Eli continued, "In the vastness of existence, our individual struggles and triumphs are but fleeting moments. However, these moments hold meaning because of the choices we make and the values we uphold. Our victory, though hard-won and costly, is a reflection of our resilience and our capacity to find meaning in the face of adversity." The survivors reflected on Eli's words, understanding that their struggle was part of a larger, ongoing process of seeking and understanding. The ancient force, once a symbol of immense power, now seemed to represent the balance between creation and destruction, between the pursuit of knowledge and the acceptance of the unknown. As the sun climbed higher, the survivors began the arduous task of clearing the ruins and rebuilding. Their efforts were guided by a newfound sense of purpose, driven by the realization that their actions had the potential to shape the future in meaningful ways. The city, once a symbol of alien dominance, was now a blank canvas upon which they could imprint their own values and aspirations. Eli's reflections turned to the nature of time and existence. Time is both a relentless force and a gentle guide. It moves forward, indifferent to our struggles, yet it offers us the opportunity to learn and grow. Our experiences, no matter how transient, contribute to the infinite tapestry of existence. It is through our actions and choices that we define our place in this grand scheme. The survivors, now deeply engaged in their rebuilding efforts, carried with them the profound insights they had gained. The ruins of the city became a symbol of their journey, a reminder that even in the face of destruction and loss, there is the potential for renewal and growth. Their struggle had revealed the cyclical nature of existence, the balance between power and responsibility, and the enduring quest for meaning. As the day progressed, the survivors continued to work, their efforts marked by a quiet determination and a profound sense of purpose. The echoes of their battle and the philosophical insights they had gained reverberated through their actions, shaping the new world they were beginning to rebuild. In the end, the survivors understood that their victory was not merely about overcoming an external threat, but about confronting and understanding the deeper truths of their existence. Their journey had been a reflection of the infinite dance between creation and destruction, power and responsibility, and the search for meaning in a vast and ever-changing universe. As the sun set on the ravaged city, casting long shadows over the ruins, the survivors stood united in their resolve. Their experiences had left indelible marks on their hearts and minds, but they had also illuminated the path forward. In the resonance of their struggles and triumphs, they found a deeper understanding of themselves and their place in the infinite expanse of existence. Their victory was a testament to their resilience, their capacity for growth, and their ongoing quest for meaning in the face of an indifferent yet wondrous cosmos.